Hello, I'm Paul.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Ben.
And welcome to the Film Busters podcast. The film show with no filters, no prisoners taken, loads of disagreements, but one hell of a love for cinema.
If you want to hear three friends ridiculing each other for an hour or so regarding their taste in films, then you have come to the right place.
In each episode, one of the team picks a film for us to discuss. It could be anything from a recent cinema release to an all-time classic.
So, strap in and get ready to get mad or get vindicated as we guide you through the murky world of being a film geek.
If you like what you hear, you can also find us on Twitter and Instagram using @FilmbustersPod. You can also find each of our individual accounts. I'm at Filmbusters Paul.
I'm at Filmbusters Adam.
And I'm at Filmbusters Ben.
If you want to use your eyes instead of your ears, you can also visit the website at filmbusterspod.co.uk.
And if busting makes you feel good, you can also support us at patreon.com/filmbusters for exclusive content.
Or shoot over and get some groovy merchandise at society6.com/filmbusters.
Alright, can we just get on with this now, please?
Filmbusters.
Hello lads, this is the first time since Doctor Sleep that it's just been the three of us. We've obviously had me and Paul together. We've featured on Breaking Bad or the Better Call Saul. And then we've had many people coming back, haven't we? What was the one that me and Paul did together that you missed?
You
Ben?
did Camino with Francis.
El Camino, yes, we picked Francis instead, didn't we? And then we did Better Call Saul with Francis.
That's right.
And then we did the Two Popes with wonderful Katie and Oti. And then not only last week, we did Wildlife with Julio.
Oh, wow. I was thinking surely there was something in between, but you're absolutely correct.
I guess we did our end of month for August separately for the patrons.
True.
But for main episodes, no.
This is main. We're main people now.
Oh, exactly. We love our main people,
This
don't we?
The freeloaders. This is the first time the freeloaders have heard us in a while
Yes. Hello, freeloaders. How are you?
So what we all doing with our surprise bank holiday weekend, our new bank holiday that we've got given to us with a week's notice.
I'm paying all my respect to the Queen, of course.
Are you? Good, that's good for you. What are you doing with it, Ben?
It's Jenny's birthday next week, so we're doing stuff for her birthday this weekend, which by the time this episode comes out...
But what are you doing on
will
the
have
Monday?
happened. On the Monday, going to the pub to watch the funeral, probably.
Are you going to go watch it in the pub?
Yeah, all the pubs around here are
Our
showing
local
it.
cinema are showing it for free.
Yeah. Same.
But you just walk in and leave it and come and go.
Why would I go to a
quite nice.
cinema to watch that?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have people around to do a barbecue and.
Imagine how morbid that is. You're going into the cinema. Do you reckon you can buy popcorn?
No, they're back. No. They're not letting
Yeah,
you.
you get a Tango Ice.
They've specifically said
Get your
they're not letting you
nachos.
buy any stuff to take in.
Tango Ice Blast.
Oh man, all the Queenie stuff.
But yeah, I think we're just having people around my house and do some food, and I don't know if we'll watch it or not.
Look at you,
just
like
use
it's
an
a fucking
exclusive.
party, mate.
Well, it's not meant to be a party. You can still have fun.
It's a funeral.
It's a celebration.
Yeah, if I would advise you do that.
Would you like your funeral to be sad or to be happy? I think I personally would like my funeral to be a bit happy.
I want people crying like motherfuckers at my funeral.
Funerals sometimes should be celebrations.
Adam, know this: if I die before my time, and you come to my funeral, I will be watching as a ghost. And if I see you laugh at any point or look like you're having fun, I'll haunt you forever.
You need to have a laugh in a funeral speech. Someone needs to break the ice a bit.
No, only I can have a laugh from the afterlife. I'll be joking around with all my ghost friends, but not you. You'll be crying.
All your craft beer.
There'll be no craft beer in the afterlife.
What a sad
be the best
thought.
craft beer.
Yeah, I know, that is a sad thought.
It'll be you and the guy who owns Brewdog just drinking
Ooh,
together.
no thanks.
No.
Should we tell everyone what we're doing today?
Yes.
Go on, Ben. It's your pick. What are we doing? We're in the year 2018.
We're in 2018.
The year of our Lord 2018.
Yes. And
What are we doing today?
I've upset everyone with this pick because anyone outside of the UK will never have heard of it, and even if they've heard of it, will never have seen it, and even if they've seen it, will not have understood a word that was being said. And for those in the UK, they'll be like, why did you pick this fucking film? But
Yes.
it is
Even about 10% of the UK will only understand
it is Possum.
And we like to think that they are our listeners.
Yes.
Those educated section of this country.
I'm trying to get it out that it is Possum. The film is Possum.
Yeah.
Not the...
Americans know what a possum is.
I don't think they do.
It's a very It's an American animal, isn't it, a possum?
No, I don't think so, is it? I thought it was an Australian
Yes.
one. Okay, I stand corrected.
Or
I
maybe
know,
it's
I know,
both.
because there was possums in Red Dead Redemption.
Okay.
Yes.
They're
like bin rodents, aren't they?
Mm.
Here's one specifically for the Brits.
Go on.
Here's one specifically for the Brits, and actually for Katie and Oti, but I don't know if they'll get this reference. Dame Edna Everage was the first time that I found out about possums, because she used to say "Hello, possums" all the time on her show.
Aww.
Oh. Is that what you called her fan base?
Yeah. A possum
pretty cool.
is a tree-dwelling Australasian marsupial that typically has a prehensile tail.
So it is Australian then, not American.
There you go. Come from Australia and New Zealand.
Maybe they got on a boat and went over there.
Yeah, it must have done.
I do remember them being in Red Dead, though.
Well, this is not a film about the animal. This is a film about terrible abuse. So we'll get to that shortly.
Well, it's slightly about the animal.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, in my reading of it.
Well, we'll hear all
Ooh.
about it then.
Okay.
Let's go into it.
Well, before we move into it, let's just talk about our Patreon channel, shall we? We're doing a Patreon episode of this episode, and it's a pick that's come from For Your Reference podcast, Katie and OT, coming off the back of our Two Popes episode. Adam, do you remember what this episode's going to be?
Yes, we're doing, because I've only just thought of my picks when we were setting up this podcast. We're doing best grumpy and happy duos in films.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know how to title this episode.
Grumpy bastards and happy
jolly-
folks.
Yeah, something like that.
Jolly folks and grumpy boys.
Yes.
No, grumpy bastards.
Yes, so if you would like to listen to the episode, you can go check us out at www.patreon.com/filmbusters, and you can get all exclusive content over there. It's very lovely. We have a lovely little family. So, should we move on to your segment now, Ben?
Is that the quiz?
It is.
Well, we hope it's the
Okay.
quiz.
Well, I got to say...
Is it a surprise this week because there's extra points up for grabs?
Yeah, there is. So, I did extra points last time round with Julio, for those who
And the one
missed it.
before that, and the one before that, and the one before that.
Maybe.
Yeah, speaking of a Patreon episode.
Last week's quiz, I asked Julio if he could identify the 9 Michael Myers masks. And
Spoilers.
if you want to find out how he did, you go ahead and sign up to our Patreon and find out. Although, in a long-winded way, he didn't do very well.
No, we thought he'd be a lot better.
He
You
did
don't even need to sign up anymore.
He did as well as he expected to do, so that's fine.
He won,
He won.
in his own words. He won.
Which means that the scores at the moment are Paul has 25 points, I've got 17 points, and Adam has 16 points. Boys, there are some significant bonus points up for grabs today, but first I'm
Holy
going to ask you
shit.
the 2 key questions from the film Possum. For those who don't know, ask the boys 2 questions. If they get the questions right, they get the points. If they get it wrong, I get the points. Now, Possum is a very hard film to ask questions about.
I was
boys,
literally
must say.
thinking that when I watched it. I was like, if I was ever... Like, these are the type of films that I'd really struggle with some finger questions from.
Yeah, it was tough, but I got 2 for you. And here we go. Fingers on buzzers, boys. First to shout it out gets it right. Complete the poetry or the prose. Can you see him deep within, little Possum?
Where have you been?
Black as sin.
Good boy, Paul. I knew Paul would get that.
I was thinking, I don't think I'll be able to remember the poem.
There you go.
I've actually got it on my notes, but I purposely did not look at it. And that's probably the only line I do remember. Strangely.
There's a point for Paul. He's running away with it once again. Second question. Ready, boys? In Maurice's sweet jar, what colour are the sweets?
Green.
Blue.
Okay. Paul is out because he said blue. Adam, you said green. There are 2 colours.
Okay.
Green and brown. I mean, I'm colourblind, so I don't really know what fucking colour it is.
Yes.
That's true. You are. I'll give you the point then. It's
Yeah,
green
give him
and
the
yellow.
point.
It's green and yellow.
Oh, okay, come on.
That's very close colours. I reckon Adam couldn't.
I only
actually
honestly thought there was
identify.
one set of sweets in there.
I mean, they were in pretty grotty glass anyway.
Yeah, I
but
thought I was
they
about
were
to say
green
like
and
the
yellow.
brown liquid that goes around it all.
Well, fair play. So a point each to the 2 boys. Now, here's just for fun, just because I was doing this and I did it out of interest for myself, and then I was like, oh, let me do it for Paul and Adam as well. So this is for fun, boys.
Okay.
So what I did is I went on my, and don't do this now, either of you, because you'll be cheating. I went on my all-time stats on Letterboxd, and I was just like, I wonder if you converted how many hours of stuff I've watched into days, how far into the year that would be if I started watching films.
Oh, okay.
Or just from this year, or from all time?
No, listen. All-time films that I've watched, if I started watching them from 1 minute past midnight at the beginning of 2022, what would be the date when I finish watching everything that I've watched?
That's a lot of calculations.
Now, I've done it for all three of us, and here is the quiz. Now, if you get the month right for yourself, you're only doing it for yourself. If you get the month right for yourself, you get a point.
Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
If you get within 5 days of the exact date that it would end on, you get another point. If you get the exact date completely, you get 5 points.
Fuck me.
In addition to the original 2.
Okay, can we have some seconds to do some maths?
Have you got a piece of paper, Adam?
So I was going to try and do it in my head, but I think I might...
No, because you're not allowed to look at your hours, mate.
I'm not doing it. I'm like writing stuff down so you know, like...
Okay. Take 30 seconds.
Okay.
So just to let you know, if
I wish I had a piece of paper.
if one of you doesn't get... if both of you get your months wrong, I get a point. If both of you are outside of 5 days, I get a point. Just for yourselves.
So I reckon I've watched about 2,100 films. Oh shit, you've got to include rewatches in this, haven't you?
No, you don't. It only on your stats on Letterboxd, it only marks.
Okay,
it
so
only
say
marks
every
the films
film's
you've
2
watched.
hours long, average. It's about 4,000. Fuck me. 4,000, I don't know, man. Divide that by 24. I still have 25.
Listeners, I'm not sure if this is interesting or not, but it's interesting over on this end. Now,
I'm gonna let Adam do the calculations and then just add some a couple of months onto that.
So say it's 25 hours, because that gives you to about 100 and 200. About 200. Now, my head is hurting a lot here. So 200
don't
days,
overthink
give
it,
or
baby.
take.
Don't overthink it, baby.
Maybe I'm going to say the 27th the 15th of August.
Adam, you're saying 15th of August for yourself, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, Paul, what are you saying?
I'm gonna say the 2nd of September.
Okay. I will tell you.
No, I'm well off.
You both got your months wrong.
I'm going to be like September, October, I think.
So that's a point to me. You obviously are well outside of the 5-day parameters, so that's a point for me as well.
There you go.
So that's 2 for me. Now, here's the really interesting bit.
Can I have another guess?
No.
For fun. No points, but like...
All right, hang on. Let me tell you mine, and then you can guess yours around it,
Okay.
yeah? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Mine, Sunday, the 17th of July.
Wow.
Okay.
So where do you think you land based on that?
It's the 17th
Okay, I'm
of July,
going back to like May then. I was going to go forward to like October, but my maths must have been all over the chip shop.
Definitely was.
I'm going to say the 31st of July.
For yourself?
Yeah.
I'm going to say like end of
Actually,
May.
no, not even 31st of July. Maybe
7th of May.
24th.
27th of May.
All right. If we were all watching, if we all hit play at the same time and we were all watching all of our collections, the first to finish would be Adam. He would finish on Thursday, the 16th of June. A month before
Nice.
I do. The second to finish would be Paul,
Okay.
who
I thought I was
finishes...
more than you.
Listen to this. You finish Saturday, the 16th of July, the day before I finish. Sunday, 17th of July. How
Wow.
mad is that?
Madness.
A
I thought I had
lifetime
more
of film.
films than you.
A lifetime of film watching. I don't know. Maybe it's the hours though. My hours are.
My maths, so I worked it out okay then. I've just looked, I've watched 4,010 hours of films. So
Yeah. So Adam,
my
yours
maths was okay up until that point.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's 2 points to me. That's 2 points to me.
Well done.
There. So that means it's a cool little fact. So that means that Paul is on 26, Ben is on 19, Adam is on 17. It is like Paul is still running away with it, but I feel like there could be a sea change in these last few months.
Did you say me and you were pretty much on the same?
We're pretty much neck and neck.
With all of Ben's special quizzes.
I know. The very hard quizzes.
Oh no, but it's kind of interesting. You could have got the
Yeah,
month
but very
right.
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. I was going to save it to the end of the year, but I thought, fuck it, do it now.
No, I like it. It was nice.
Good.
Should we move on to the main topic of this episode?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about Mr. Possum.
Mother, father, what's afoot? Only possum black as soot. Mother, father, where to tread? Far from possum and his head. Here's a bag, now what's inside? Does he seek or does he hide? Can you spy him deep within? Little possum, black as sin.
Police are widening their search for missing teenager Michael Browning, who disappeared on his way home from school.
Happened before, I recall. Did you find him? Waking up, is it?
Right, everyone, welcome to the main section of the podcast. Today we're doing Possum from 2018. This is a spoiler episode. So if you haven't seen Possum, you might want to go watch it first because you'll probably be quite confused, I'd say. You might want to go watch it first and then come back and then listen to this wonderful episode.
It is a film you need to watch to understand it.
Yes,
Definitely.
I'd say so. Before we move on to Adam's plot summary, we've got a couple of people who have been in films we've done before.
Oh?
Do you know
No.
No.
it's actually Sean Harris
Oh, yes.
who plays Philip? And do you know what film he's in?
Star Wars.
I
No.
think he was in the Five Bloods.
He's not in the Five Bloods, no.
No?
I don't know where he would be in the Five Bloods.
He was one of the Five Bloods.
Oh, was he? No.
He was the main one
Likely
dancing
is
in
never
the club.
doing that in a million years.
He was the main one dancing in the club.
It's Mission Impossible Fallout, Adam's favourite film.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Shit film.
Yes. How could you forget?
Because I didn't remember much of it.
Whenever I see
that's-
Sean Harris, I always just think of The Creep. That was the first thing I ever saw him in, and I just can't see him as anything other than Creep.
Harry Brown. Oh, I think Harry Brown.
I never really watched that.
See, I never really link him to Creep, even though I've watched it so many times. For some reason.
How many of the actors in
interesting
this
thing-
in Garth Marenghi's?
Mwang.
Garth Wangies!
No,
Mwangi.
they're not Adam, but thank you for that little bit.
Oh, brilliant.
Thanks for that.
Excellent, Adam. Love you.
but-
Love you.
The second person, it's a very interesting one. It's you know the lady with the pushchair in the park. So it's Pamela Cook, and she has also been in Mission Impossible Fallout. So I'm very interested to know
Oh.
where the link is.
Tom Cruise
Like, is
loves
she-
this film.
Yeah,
Maybe.
maybe
never
Tom
know.
Cruise loves
Wait, this
Possum,
came out
man.
the same year as Mission Fallout, didn't it?
Indeed,
Yeah,
it
it did.
did.
Yeah.
So maybe they were just
Christ.
filming next to each other, and they were like, "Shit, we need some actors," and they
Oh,
came.
potentially.
They went, "Oh fuck it, you can go across."
Look at this. We're connecting stuff up from the years.
Yeah, that's it. That would probably be what it is.
Interesting.
Or maybe it's Sean Harris's friend. I did look into his history. I thought maybe it'd be his wife, but it was not his wife.
It's Ed Harris's son.
Rubbish joke, Adam. Rubbish.
Yeah.
He looks a bit like Ed Harris.
Oh,
doesn't,
that's an
though.
insult to Ed Harris, man. Ed Harris is a beautiful man by comparison. Sean Harris is very hideous.
Why is Ed Harris coming up so much this year?
Yeah, mate, I know. Sean Harris.
He's the topic of conversation.
Sean Harris is so ugly. He's an ugly man, unfortunately. I don't mean that. It's cruel to say, but he's not. He's a very wretched beast to look at.
Are you talking about Sean Harris or Ed Harris?
Sean Harris. Ed Harris is beautiful, man. He's a lovely man. I like his look. Oh, he's very wrinkly these days now. He's very creased. He looks like a very... You know when someone says you can't fold a piece of paper more than 8 times? He looks like someone has tried that over and over and over again with the same bit of paper.
Okay, Adam, would you like to do a plot summary of this film?
Yes. So this film is about a guy going back to his old house, and weird shit fucking happens.
That's it. Is that the tagline?
Well, tell me more.
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
This is an old house. There's a weird uncle, some weird sweets, a weird suitcase, and weird people.
Yep.
And a missing kid.
Why have you not mentioned Possum?
Yeah.
Because that's the surprise.
Oh, it's a surprise. Well, it sure is.
Yeah, that's the weird puppet briefcase shit.
Yes,
Possum comes out the briefcase.
The weird
Yeah.
puppet briefcase shit.
Black as sin. All right, let me do a little backstory on it.
Yes, please.
Set the scene. So, writer-director Matthew Holness grew up with Stephen King stories and was inspired by his and other British horror writers to create his own short story. So, Possum is adapted from his own short story, which formed part of an anthology piece, which was combined with lots of other horror stories that all had the same theme: Sigmund Freud's theory of the uncanny, which I studied at university. We will talk about that. Holness is best known for Garth Marenghi's dark plays, and Holness himself has admitted he had always been a fan of the horror genre and works with serious themes, but stressed that it had been difficult to break from his reputation for comedies due to the large following of the Garth Marenghi's dark plays show. Sean Harris, the lead, is a method actor and would remain in character throughout the entirety of shooting, to the point where Holness felt that he was working with Philip rather than Sean Harris.
Can imagine that.
Yes. Holness considered the original design of the possum puppet to be too much, stating, "You can see something horrific, but once you've seen it, the effect wears off, which is why we kept so much of it as secret as possible. The head, neck and the body of the possum was constructed as a simple hand and rod puppet, with the body constructed out of foam latex and the head made out of fiberglass, and it was there to haunt your dreams forevermore."
Good facts. Love it.
Good facts.
There we go. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ben, this is your pick.
Yeah.
Who do you want to go first? In what order do you want your first impressions?
We're going to do reverse film busters. Ben, Adam, Paul.
Okay.
So I shall go first.
Okay.
And say I thought that this might have been a film about a horrible spider monster that haunted a guy from his past. That was kind of what I thought the film would be. I had no idea that it was going to be so miserable and horrid and just horrible. But that is not a negative. I think it's very well made. It is absolutely horrendous and just a horrible experience to go through, but intentionally so. It is so lacking in humour that it stuns me that this came from the guy who did Garth Marenghi's dark plays.
Yeah.
But it is slightly slow and drawn out, and that is a shame considering it's only like 80 minutes long. But it has all the good things a good horror film should be. It is very creeping. It's very disturbing. I was unnerved a hell of a lot. It has like a bit of subtext to it, but it really struggles with its pacing. The fact that it paces itself the way it does, I guess, helps the mood of the film, but it means when you've got long scenes where there's no dialogue and when Philip is returning to scenes on like the moors and stuff like that, it becomes overly bleak and it becomes a bit of a chore to get through. That's it. There's so much good stuff happening that I'm almost like, it's acceptable. It's okay because it's creating and setting the scene. And I guess it is short enough, but there is just, it's so oppressively moody. It's like, I can only recompare it to something like Devil's Rejects, where there is an oppressive mood that is horrible to endure. However, a lot is happening with Devil's Rejects, so there's enough to keep me going. This is so slow paced that when you're enduring it, it feels like you're suffering along with Philip. It's wonderfully performed by him and the guy who plays Morris. The whole thing is haunting in many ways, so it's a very good horror film. I just don't think it's a very good film, but it's a very good debut from Holness, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. I started off this film being really intrigued. the beginning bit captures you in. You're like, okay, what the fuck is happening here? Everything's weird, everything's strange. You've got so many questions that you need to be answered. But then again, I think it loses you a bit in the middle. That whole middle stint is just very long. It's just a bit like, oh, like you gave me so much promise, and it's a bit like, come on, like you I think you said it best. It's like, it's just, there's so many, you want it to be great and you just really want to egg this film on, but I do think it just loses a little bit. It needs something else to capture you just again in that middle bit. I'm not saying we lost attention, but it was just like, and then I think the end, it does wing you round, but I still think it is majorly let down by that middle bit. And I don't know whether that's like, this is his first film. Is it his first film?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah,
I think it's his
where it's that
only
thing
film, I think.
You live and learn, like you get to learn how to deal with these little challenges throughout your film. But I feel like it does suffer a bit too much. But then every element of this film is good. The possum is fantastic. The acting is brilliant. The scene setting is incredible. It gives me major feels of like The Lighthouse. It's that kind of same creepy, but just on another level up. It's more of the horror than the creepiness, but the way the characters are interacting with each other and the eeriness and the creakiness, kind of everything, and the remoteness as well. It's just annoying that it didn't have, if you could maybe, I don't know, re-look at that middle bit and think, yeah, it just needed something. It was like, oh, come on, like, it feels very long for a film that is 85, 95 minutes long. It could have almost been a TV episode rather than a
film.
But yeah, I love a lot of the feel of it, and that very British black comedy, like Black Books, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you're right.
Definitely not comedy.
No, not a comedy. I was just before you say something, Paul. Yes, you're right. That is, I was thinking, you can't. How can you make this shorter? It's already a short film. How do you make it shorter without compromising what it is? And that's exactly it. You make it a TV episode of something, like an anthology.
Like a Black Mirror
it would be
episode.
a really great anthology film. Anyway, apologies.
I wholeheartedly agree with you both, but I almost, like, I came to the end of watching it, and I'm pretty sure I had my mind set on what it was, like what my opinion was. But then at the same time, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, it's kind of seeped into my head, like just the look and feel of it. The only way I can really describe Possum is like, it's one of those curse videos you find on YouTube. Do you know what I mean? It's like chaotically edited, and it's like disorientating. And it has that plot that challenges you to like peel back the layers and get any sense of what it's about. Speaking of the actual possum, the design of Possum is so simple, yet it's like horrifying. It like it taps into that very real fear of like. I know this is it Freud? Did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the fear of familiarity, isn't it? But there's something off about it.
Yeah.
It feels almost normal, but so slightly off that it's like really off-putting. And like for 3/4 of this film, it's only like the mere suggestion that Possum could be alive in some way that it totally adds to the fear factor of it whenever it's in the room. It's like, and nothing, it doesn't even have to move. It's like it could just be a puppet the whole time, but you still have this fear factor just because it's so odd. It's just such an odd thing. Whether it be a man spider or a Spider-Man, either way you look at it, it's just stuff and nightmares. Especially when you're adding to what it all means metaphorically, which I'm really excited to talk about. Sean Harris I think he's always on point. He's got a very intimidating presence, and I think he nails it again here. He feels absolutely drained of everything but paranoia, and I love the way he carries that bag around as if he's just taken the trash out. It's away from his body, like he doesn't want to get any bin juice on him or something. Like, he needs to keep it away from his body. I enjoy the way he does that. But yeah, when I first finished the film, I was so sure of my opinion, but the more I was left with it, the more it, as I say, it invaded my mind, and it was hard to deny there was something a little special here. But I look forward to peeling back those layers with you both, and trying to get an understanding of this.
I think with this podcast, we we're just going to talk about how all the little great moments are in this film, and I think that's what you will remember over time. I think the way I can remind me of is a bit like with Holy Motors. Like looking back on it over time, you just remember all those great little moments throughout the film. But then when I rewatched it recently, you remember why you didn't quite love it. You're like, oh, I really should have loved that film. Why didn't I love it? And then you go back and you realise. So I think, like, yeah, I can happily talk about all the little fantastic moments, the creepy moments. But I just think the way they're laced together is the bit that lets this film down.
Yeah.
What did you think of its pacing, Paul?
I agree. I totally agree. It's it felt. It's not. It didn't. I wouldn't say it felt like a slog. I think it's very hard to get to access what you're watching, kind of thing, because it feels like it's just loads of chaos just unfurling in front of you. It's like you need to get a grip of. You kind of get a grip of what's going on by the end.
Yeah.
But it's like because you've got to experience that and not really understanding any of it. It's kind of hard to get along with it. But that's why I said it feels different once you're out the other side of it, because you can kind of see what was happening. But I feel like if you watch it again, I still don't think knowing it's going to bring any more enjoyment. I'm not sure if it would.
Yeah, I know it's hard. I thought at the end, I was like, I will never watch that film again. Not because it was bad, but because it was so rough going. Like it just felt very sad and just horrible. And I thought, I'll never watch this again. But it's like with the knowledge of what he is and what his experience was, would that change it? And I think it would give some of it legs, but I think still it is 100% that middle
legs like the possum,
lull.
yeah.
Legs like the possum.
I was waiting for Adam to pipe up.
Yeah. Which are actually knuckles and fingers, which is just horrendous. This is probably one of, I would say it is on the level almost with a Serbian film for how horrendous the subject matter is. But to this film's credit, it doesn't need to excessively show stuff on camera. It does the opposite of it and just makes you feel horrible inside. And for some people, and some people will listen to that and go, oh, well, why the hell would I ever watch that? But if someone said, if you watch that film, you will feel horrible, I would want to watch it, because it's like, sometimes I want that, especially I want it from a horror film.
Yeah.
And this film gave me something, the biggest compliment I could pay it is it gave me something I wasn't expecting. I was thinking it was going to be good, but I had no idea really what the subject matter was. And what I was presented with was like, oh shit, we are dealing with heavy fucking territory.
And I think the film the more the film goes on, the more you realise how heavy it is, and you're like, I don't want the film to go in this place, but it goes in that direction. And especially from the uncle at the end when he's got him pinned to the floor, you're just like, oh, was that really the way?
So let me ask you, boys, before we talk about the reveal and what it all ultimately means, when you were, let's say up to the point where he has encountered Morris a few times in the house and he's gone out to the moors with the bag and he's throwing it over the side and stuff, what was your understanding individually at that point of what was maybe going on? What were you thinking was going on?
I thought it was all characters were him, just at different periods of his life. Especially when the little boy came along, I just thought there's going to be some type of turned up here. Like when the boy went missing, it was him as a young kid. Then it's him, he's going back as a present, but then Maurice is him when he's older as well.
That's interesting.
That's what I thought. It was going to be quite clever in that manner, but
there's something about that him being the little boy that comes into my kind of end theory, really.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I wouldn't say Morris. He would be the Morris character, but it kind of plays into my understanding of the ending, that boy, seeing that boy, for me.
So at that point, when you were like, say, halfway through the movie, were you thinking that he was that boy?
No. So all of these thoughts came to me by the end of the film.
Oh, okay.
Just about, if we're talking about halfway through, from my understanding, it was, I think it was, my understanding was basically what they were trying to make you understand, which was he had something to do with the disappearance of this boy, and maybe the puppet maybe was something to do. Maybe I had a feeling that it was alive in some way, even though it wasn't showing us it was alive, and the boy's disappearance was something to do with this possum in the bag, and he needed to kind of almost get rid of the puppet because that was the thing that's caused this terrible thing to happen where this boy's disappeared.
Yeah. I thought it was the boy that he was carrying around in the bag.
Yeah, and part of that, partly. Because at some point you see a shot of a boy in a barrel.
Oh, I can't remember that.
Yeah, you see a shot of... So do you know when he shoves... Actually, no. Do you know what? It wasn't that. Now I'm thinking back. Because throughout the film, it's interspliced with shots of Possum, but they're like out of order. And one of those is Possum in the barrel. And I think at that time you had not seen the head. So I probably assumed it was the boy.
Oh, right, yeah.
So I think that's what it was.
I very much thought that was it in the middle section. I thought, right, he's killed that kid and he is carrying around the body looking for somewhere to dump it. And I thought I was pretty sure that Maurice didn't actually exist and was in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this is someone from his past who killed a kid. I thought maybe Maurice had killed a kid and somehow he had encountered him and now he was sort of following in his footsteps.
All right, yeah.
So it's good because all of us were wrong by the end.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. It fools us. I think it kind of it pushes you in that direction.
It was nice. It was quite
All
simple as well. Like, it didn't get that complicated. It was just about trauma and all that kind of stuff and relationships rather than being weird time lapsing and try. It felt like it could have gone there, but it would have made it complicated. And yeah.
And even though it was simple, because you're right, it is a simple story, really. It kept me guessing all the way through. Like the driving force for me was I want to understand what the hell's going on, and I was really worried that we weren't going to get an answer by the end. And I thought for this film, sometimes I don't like answers, but I was like, for this film, you better give me an answer to what this all means. And they did, and I was very satisfied with the answer that I got. And it wasn't the answer I was expecting, maybe a little bit as it went on.
But I think it's what's good about it as well is it doesn't force feed you those answers.
No,
it's kind of like you have to do a little bit of legwork yourself to kind of put the pieces together and understand what happened.
Yeah, it was subtle little things that are said and done. When you look back, you're like, oh God,
yeah,
that means that.
It's all about fingers and where people's fingers have been.
So then we can talk about some of the other bits in between, but maybe we should just jump to the end and then make sure we are all on the same. I think we might actually be on different pages about the ending. So I'll be, again, intrigued to hear. In fact, Paul, I think you definitely are reading it differently to me. So I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. What it means.
Go on, you go first.
What happened?
So I'll give you my understanding of what the real life, realistic understanding of what happened.
Yes, please.
To this Philip.
Yeah.
So, especially, I've got the poem in front of me as well, and especially reading the poem, I feel like it kind of tells you what happens.
Go ahead.
And so Philip was a young kid who lived in this house with his parents, and whether this is an uncle or not, it's maybe his next door neighbour or someone who lives in that place with them. Yeah. There's a house fire, and it was only contained in one room where his parents died. And he that's why you see this image of him running out the house. And this Maurice looked after him as a kid, and he was abused by him, and he was into no good with children, and maybe he's done kidnapping of children as well in the past, because he said it happened when he was in school as well. And the idea of Possum, in my eyes, is what he had to play like. He had to play Possum where he had to pretend he was asleep.
Ooh.
So that whether to kind of not be present when whatever was happening to him or to make Maurice go away, I'm not sure. But that's where the idea of Possum comes from. That's why I said Possum is something to do with this.
Interesting. I'd never even fucking occurred to me.
So
you're so right.
With you
I think you're so right.
Up until that end point, I never thought of it in that way. I mean, so you're wrong. But...
this is why I said I think the poem really helps to understand it. And then, and I think then from then on, it kind of everything is pretty self-explanatory. He grows up. He's got this trauma. The puppet is his personification of the trauma that he wants to get rid of, but he can't. It's basically an image of him. He is the trauma. That's his face. It's a cast of his face, right?
Yeah.
And these legs, these horrible spider legs, it is like him and Maurice like merged together, smashed together. His arms, like all hairy arms and fingers, ready to grab you. It's just a horrible image.
It is.
And then he's obviously, Maurice has gone out and he's still committing these horrible things. And I don't know what the sweets are. He gives him horrible sweets. Maybe they're like horrible
Sleeping pills.
drug candies or something. I don't know.
Well, they're like pickled sweets that he thinks are horrible. It's like a punishment. You have to eat them.
I think they're drugged. I think they're drugged sweets. My reader, everything you said, Paul, I agree with. I like that possum thing. That never occurred to me. That may be why it's called possum, but that makes sense. I think the yellow and orange, the green and yellow sweets are like green and yellow. Yes,
Green. They're just
those
all
sweets
green.
are to make the kids or Philip sedate, drugged, slowed down, stuff like that.
Oh, that makes it even horrible then, doesn't it? Maybe he caught wind of the fact that it makes them fall asleep and that's why he has to pretend to be asleep.
Oh fuck yeah! There you go.
Oh.
Because don't forget, like he when he was like when the Morris says to him something from the jar, and he goes, "What's in them?" And he goes, "Same as always." And he goes, "No, then," because he fucking knows that. Like, oh no. And then when he has one later, he like is like gagging on it and dropping.
Yeah, he's
to
on the floor, isn't he? He's like almost unconscious on the floor.
Horrible scene. To add to that, I think also so that I agree with you on all of that. Do you think that Maurice is real at the end? Is he really there?
No, I don't think he is at the end.
I don't.
Oh, really?
'Cause he goes-
I feel like
Yes.
it's quite. He actually goes out his way and kills him.
I think that's a symbolic death because I think Maurice
There's
is
something that
all
happens.
in his head.
Where I think after the kid no, I can't remember what happened, but it felt like the house was empty and it was almost like he was normal for a
That's
moment and that Maurice wasn't there.
Yeah. Maurice is not there for sure for that first 24 hours. And it's only, I can't remember, Maurice, he's not there that first night. Philip sleeps overnight. And then it's almost like being there reminds him of him. And I think it's very telling that very early on when you see Maurice has a puppet also that looks very much like him. And he's like, oh, you remember this one? I believe that in the real world, if you could take what's going on in Philip's head, he's so fucked up, obviously. He's trying to cast out his trauma. He's trying to get rid of Possum, but I think he's doing that by talking through with puppet Maurice. So I think he's probably, we're not seeing it, but he's probably operating that Maurice puppet and talking to that. And I think come the end, that what we're seeing is, again, all in Philip's head. He thinks that he has become like Maurice. He starts to think, oh, the abused has become the abuser. I've done this to that kid.
There was like those doubts whether he was the one who kidnapped the kid, or I think that's why he ran away in the school as well. Like it was a moment of fuck, I could have done myself in here.
Have I done this? Because he didn't. Because at first, at the end, I was like, okay, Maurice wasn't real, but Philip actually kidnapped that boy. But I think no, he didn't, because when the news article suddenly bursts on the telly, it comes out of nowhere. There's static on the telly. Then suddenly a news article bursts on to say, this boy's gone. What are the chances it would be this boy he saw fleetingly on the train? And then the only other evidence that this boy's gone missing is Maurice showing it to him on a paper. I think Maurice is just another puppet in Philip's mind.
Oh my God.
To deal with.
Yeah, I think you're unlocking this for me now.
No.
Okay, so the kidnapping's not actually happened. The kidnapping is actually him getting kidnapped as a little boy.
Yeah.
Right? And this is what I said about my idea of him being a little boy, because Maurice is sitting in the chair reading his book and he says about, I never knew you were good at art. Right?
Yes.
And then when he's on the train and sees the little boy, all the kids are talking about how they're going to go down to the river where the dead fox is.
Oh, is that what they're talking about?
They're talking about
dead
going
fox?
down there, yeah. So in
interesting.
this case, he will be in that group about to go down to see the fox, and he's almost like re-experiencing his memories, and he walks up to in this case, if it's himself, saying, "What did you draw?" And then he runs away.
Interesting.
And
I
then-
didn't think it might not.
Yeah.
It might have been him.
Yeah, so that kind of all makes sense because then he also goes to his school, right?
Yeah.
And he's almost
his
talking like
school,
a
isn't
kid, and it's his school, and he's saying, "I want to see my teacher. I want to see my teacher," and it all feels a bit like he's reverted back to being a kid again, and this is just him re-experiencing what happened as a kid.
Because he also talks really childish when he gets to the school.
Yeah,
Acts like a child who's been told off or sheepish or something like that.
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. But I think it's interesting then what actually happened back then when he was a kid, because when he goes to the school the second time and he tells that lady he wants to see whatever the teacher is, he says to her, he knows what happened. He said he would come with me to the police, which suggests that when he was a kid, he did tell a teacher that Maurice had been abusing him.
Yes, that's the bit I forgot. Yeah, so that's what made me think, because he doesn't go there saying, I've kidnapped a kid, or I know someone who's kidnapped a kid. He goes there to say that very thing of he knows what happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. So that almost kind of gives it the full picture. And when he's trying to destroy Possum, right, and the only way he could do it in the end was by literally killing Maurice, and that kind of let the boy free, the little boy who was trapped for so long.
Yes, you got it. That's it. That's all it. And it's all just playing out in his head, not in a shit sort of cheap knockoff of Fight Club and the whole, this person isn't really there type thing. But it works for the metaphor. The fact that he is a puppeteer, for fuck's sake, you never really think of him as a puppeteer, even though we hear that he did that at the school and stuff. But the fact that he is a puppeteer, it adds further credence to the idea that Maurice is really, he is speaking through Maurice. He's working through his shit with him.
Yeah.
And Maurice just is conveniently able to be in certain rooms when he's around, and
he almost feels like a ghost, doesn't he? So like when he's trying to sleep, you can hear him talking through the walls, and he's got to follow his voice. It's almost like he's speaking to him, and he's reading out his poems.
I just think it's because the house
he's
is
got to
sometimes
kind of follow
empty, and that sometimes he's there, but when he's there, he's everywhere. He's not just where a normal person would be. He like turns and he's there, isn't he?
It's quite horrible overall. Anyway, once you get that realization of what's happened, it's very fucking bleak. It's grim stuff, and it, how just Sean Harris, like method acting or not, for you to go through that entire film embodying such misery like that, that must be hard to shake off.
Those are the type of films where you feel like they need therapy after it.
Yeah, like can you imagine Holness just going, "All right, cut, that was great, Sean," and then Sean going, "Yeah, cool, all right, what are we having for lunch?"
Yeah, and also it's not those films. It's like you quite
pub?
clearly haven't shot this on the soundstage. Like,
no,
you're going to be stuck in that environment, in those fields, in those moors, and that bleak area. Once this is finished,
it's
as well.
Not a good advert for old Norfolk. I mean, I've got to say, I've been to Norfolk many times. It's a beautiful place. It looks nothing like this. It was shot in Norfolk and a few other places, but they all got a lot of the marsh stuff. No, Norfolk. It's much more beautiful than this film portrays. What about the Fox story? I've got to read on that.
Well, that's literally the whole idea of what a possum is about. He's being kicked and abused to death, and then he has to pretend to be asleep or pretend to be dead for him to actually get out of it, because that's when the abuse is going to stop.
They're like rodents, aren't they? They go through like bins, and they're like foxes almost, aren't they? But not quite as. They're like more than a fox. They go through bins and shit, don't they? They go through trash.
More than a fox.
More than a fox to me.
Potentially, I feel like they are. Yeah, they're just like how big are they? A little bit bigger than a hedgehog.
I thought they were quite a bit bigger than a hedgehog, like
possibly.
a rabbit. I don't know.
But yeah, that was my reading of it. It was just another metaphorical idea of this is what he had to go through with Maurice.
Yeah,
what they did to the fox.
Yeah,
and that's why he's almost like, tell me that story again about you and the fox.
Yeah,
it's like he is the fox in this situation.
He is the fox. Yeah. And Maurice is a cunt when he comes back home and Maurice is like, hungry, roast fox.
Yeah.
He knows what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
I got to say, whoever that guy is, his performance, Sean Harris is wonderful playing this tortured person, but whoever plays Maurice played him so well because not just being a nasty bastard ultimately, but just the way he converses with him, you can tell, even before you know what the situation is, you can tell that he knows he is tormenting Philip. Regardless of what this wider story is, you know he's being a dick, and he's doing it so well.
Yeah.
And he lives in such filth and squalor, man. I
gross.
can't, living like that.
I mean, it kind of says it all, doesn't it? That that whole house is so dilapidated, and it's so it's like no one could live like that. So
No,
why
it's
would
just not
someone
been
be
lived
living
in.
like that? Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess like Philip, because Philip comes from out of town, we see him coming in on the train. It's like, let me visit home. Like, are we to believe that his uncle's just been living there all that time? No. It's when he comes back in the house, he reanimates the old ghosts, the old trauma from the past. I don't know how Philip is going to actually be doing after this film. That's the thing. Like, if he's worked through his trauma, I don't really think he has. Like, he doesn't at the end, even though metaphorically he's killed Maurice, I don't get the impression that this guy is going to sleep easy anymore for his days. I feel like this guy is really, really messed up bad. As you know, I mean, I'm not a victim of such things, but victims of abuse like that, fuck.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's any light coming out of the tunnel. He's purposely come home to literally face his demons and kill the possum, which is I think it's a possum. I see, because his poem's all about possum.
Can't kill what's in your head.
I see it as just a term he uses for that whole experience.
Yeah,
because it's sometimes it could be deemed as him, sometimes because he in his poem it's talking about possum will come after you.
Yeah,
and it's like that was what he had to play like. So that is what his experience has become, this metaphorical word called possum. And he literally had to come home to kill this thing, and that's what he did. But I don't feel like. I mean, it doesn't feel like there's a happy ending, even though he does kind of kill some demons. I feel like the next day he could be laying in bed and then Possum would be laying there again.
Yeah. Although I think the only reason that there might be some hope is, like you said, it's emerging, that the possum, the puppet itself, is emerging of like Maurice's horrible fingers and arms and Philip's face, like a merging of the two, because he can't differentiate between the abuse that he suffered and the potential abuser he's become. Like, maybe because he has that moment of catharsis at the end where he kills Maurice, maybe he can finally be like, no, but I'm not him, I'm not like him, we aren't the same. So if he has that breakthrough, then maybe he can destroy Possum the puppet and it's gone and done with. And he can try and heal. So in a very bleak fucking way, maybe there is some hope.
I hope there is. I do have some hope for him that he can go on to live a nice life.
I mean,
I don't feel like he is in any sense throughout this film that he is an abuser himself. I never get that sense. I just feel like he's very like beaten down, and he has no confidence. And like, but
the first time I watched it, I wasn't sure about that though.
Like when you come out the back of it, you mean?
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, I feel like when you come out the other side of it, he just feels
I think ultimately, see all this conversation that we've just had now. All of this is why I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and the problem with the film is that
when you watch it, you realise how it's pieced together.
It's unfortunately just too much time ultimately gets spent with Philip out with the puppet. Like, for example, I timed it. I went back and timed it because I wanted to make sure that I knew exactly how long it was. There is a 2-minute 40 seconds segment of him with the puppet in the playground, him slowly approaching it and lifting it up so it's up above his head and he's looking at it face to face. Apart from the horrible mood that it builds, yes, why did that need to be that long? And that's just one example of many things where they have a scene and they just drag it for too long. I don't. That sounds flippant. Like I'm like, oh, this is too slow.
No.
It's not so much that it was slow. It just got a bit repetitive, considering that we weren't really seeing all that much, and the scenery was meant to be bleak and horrible. So it isn't like, oh, but look at these amazing vistas while we're seeing
I think
this,
that's why
you
I
know?
compared it to the Lighthouse in that way, where the Lighthouse sets the mood but keeps you intrigued. And even if there is moments of just Robert Pattinson just doing general work around the island, there's something more. You feel like there's something more at play. Whereas that is, it's kind of, I don't know, feels a bit maybe more one dimensional. And again, that's what I said at the
It's an
beginning.
interesting
Like,
comparison.
we're going to talk about this film, and if you listen to us just talk about the film, you'd be like, oh, they loved it, because they're not saying a bad thing. And it's really hard to pick up a bad thing apart from that, I think. Like, every single element of this film is good apart from that one element, and it just overshadows it too much.
Yeah,
It is a hard one. Yeah,
it's a shame. It's hard.
It's like when thinking from the other side of it and thinking now, just looking back on the film, thinking about him holding Possum up in the air, looking himself in the face. It sounds like it's to me right now. It sounds like a wonderful thing. Like metaphorically, he's looking at himself. Am I this? Am I this thing? It's literally a thing that looks. It's got his face, but it's not him. It's got these spider arms and this spider body, and it's like he's looking at himself like, am I this? Is this me?
Yeah.
Have I like merged and turned into this thing that raised me? And that sounds, but it is that you have to experience all this stuff in the film to get to that conclusion. That's the weird thing.
The part when he looks in the mirror
I know.
and he sees the possum's face on his face, that was creepy as shit.
Oh yeah.
And there's also another part that I absolutely shat myself at, and it's towards the end, and he's in a room and he's looking, I can't remember what he's looking at, and then Maurice just jumps him out of nowhere.
Yeah, and he puts the bag over him. So he captures him as if he's the possum.
Yeah, it's the bit before the end, and like it's just such the jump scare is like there is nothing. You just feel like it's every other thing where he's just looking at something, and there's no music, there's no nothing that stops. He just fucking guy just jumps him out of nowhere.
And he's got like a balaclava on and everything.
It's a horrible little film.
Should we?
I
Do you
can't-
want me to read through the poem, just so you can like?
Yes.
Do you want me to or not?
Yeah, go on. Well, actually, it's funny that you say that. One of the things I was going to say that I didn't like about the film as well was every time it went to Philip's narration, because it felt like I don't need this, and it reminded me, okay, this has been adapted from this work. That's why you're doing this. You wrote this, and then you've adapted this film from it, but we kind of don't need it.
What
in the film?
Hasn't it been adapted from his short film?
No, from his short story.
Oh, short story. Okay,
yeah,
right,
which I
right,
think the story is the poem. I think.
Yeah. I quite like the poem.
Yeah, it broke it up a little bit too. It was a bit weird. I don't know. I'm sure the poem was very nice.
I feel like it helps to kind of reveal some of the answers you've been looking for in the film.
Well, go on, read it. Read the poem. Let's hear it. Let's see.
Mother, father. Do I do it in his voice?
Yeah, go on, try.
Mother, father, what's afoot? Only Possum, black as soot. So Possum is a personification of him running out of the house. He's covered in ash, right?
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Mother, father, where to tread, far from Possum and his head. So I see that as I would say this is where it merges, because I feel like far from Possum is now saying that is his uncle Maurice. Like to stay away from him. Here's a bag. Now what's inside? Does he seek or does he hide? This is him because Maurice literally tries to trap him inside a bag, and he keeps people inside things. Can you spy him deep within, little Possum, black as sin? And now this is him, little Possum. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bag is open, growing wider. What's inside, man or spider? This is him talking about himself again. Is he the man or the spider? Little boy, don't lose your way. Possum wants to come and play. Talking about Uncle Maurice. Look at Possum, and there he lies. Children meet his lifeless eyes. Uncle Maurice's eyes. See his nasty legs and tongue. Yuck. When he wakens, watch him run. Oh.
Yeah, so what does that mean when he wakens? Watch him run. That's Philip running away.
I could be. I could be read by either one. Like he's coming after him.
Oh right, yeah, maybe.
Because it says, see, because it's talking about see his nasty legs and tongue, and then it says when he wakens, watch him run. Wait a while, my little child, for what is playing dead. Possum with his black balloons will eat you up in bed. Ugh. Happy Valley painted black, all the children in a sack. That's him catching the children. Wave goodbye to sun and moon. Say hello to black balloon. I wasn't sure what the idea of the balloons were.
Maybe it was.
I think
his
that
balaclava.
Maurice. Huh?
His head looked like a balloon with a balaclava on it.
Oh, maybe.
Well, it could be that. The black balloons was Maurice, and the orange and the green or whatever colours they were his parents. I thought because the colourful balloons are surrounded by smoke, and Maurice's black balloons are the ones that keep popping and whatnot. Pouring down all over his face. Yes, like, forget it, I'm not going there. I'm not even going to say that comment. That just came into my head, but you might be able to imagine.
The parcel opened, out it sprang. The black long-legged possum man. Children run, he'll eat and smother any child without a mother. So that is him. He hasn't got any parents anymore, so here he comes. He's going to go become an abuser.
Yes.
That's it. That's the poem.
It's creepy.
Creepy shit.
Did you think that would you say this is probably one of the more unsettling, creepy horror films you've seen for a while?
Yes.
I'd say so, yeah.
I can't remember the last film that unsettled me and unnerved me as much as this one did. It's been a long time.
Yeah. For this kind of subject matter, for sure.
Yeah.
There's no levity at all. And it's all metaphorical and all about abuse.
Yeah. I would love to see what Wholeness does next. I would hope that he takes some learnings from this to be like, okay, how can I make something like this but tighter? I was watching an interview with him where he said like he prefers his horror movies to have this hidden layer. He likes something underneath the surface of it rather than something there. So I would hope that if he did something again, it would be very good. Do you reckon he learned, this may seem silly, but I wonder, do you reckon he learned anything from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place about what not to do in a horror film? Like, obviously he has an awareness of the genre to be able to make jokes about it in the way that he did, and very clever jokes about it. So do you think he learned while making Marenghi, okay, then if I'm going to do one, I won't do this or I won't do that?
Potentially. I mean, it's all a learning experience, isn't it, when you're making films about, especially when he's playing against the genre. So I imagine, anything's a learning curve.
Yeah. I just think like if because Garth Marenghi's show was like, here's this shit television series about pulpy horror, and it's like, but now when I turn my eye to something serious, it's going to be the absolute opposite of that. This is my kind of horror. It's almost like Garth Marenghi was like his way of saying, you know, that kind of horror show, that kind of horror story, that's shit. That's not what I like. So I'm going to rip the piss out of it. Here's the kind of horror that I like. That's why I fucking love horror, man, because it is such a broad genre. You say to someone, I love horror films, they're like, ugh. Everyone looks down their nose at horror films.
Yeah, so many different.
It's so broad, man. So broad.
Yeah. You could be watching a slasher, something like this, psychological, something like Saw that's just torture porn. It's a big range.
The Shining.
The Shining, yeah.
Many. Apparently he was inspired by the look of public information films that used to do the rounds, you know, like Wait for the Green Man to Cross the Road, those sorts of videos that were around 30-40 years ago for kids and stuff like that kind of aesthetic for this film. And that makes sense, but exactly, that works in a 30-second warning video when you have to do it for 90 minutes, something else.
That's why it kind of reminds me of those cursed YouTube videos in a way. Just the way, I don't know, it's just the manipulation of of the shots he does with the music, and it's just you don't really know what you're watching. That just feels like that's what one of those cursed YouTube videos is like. Especially like the intro to the film is very off-putting.
Oh, I know what you mean, all the credits and that.
Yeah, all the visuals of that.
Well, I think this was a powerhouse. Is Adam still there, or is he fallen asleep? Oh, right, okay.
He's
listening quietly. I think it shows that Sean Harris is one of the best figures in British horror. Like, if there's a horror film and he's involved in it, it's especially if he's like the lead or the bad guy in some way. Like, the thing is, have you ever seen Creep, Adam?
No.
So it's a film about a girl who misses her last. She misses her last tube home. So have you seen?
I know of it.
Yeah. Well, he's the creep in it. A guy who's lived underground for years, so he's completely pale and shit like that. It looks horrible. But then the first time I saw him was in that film, and then I saw what he looked like in real life, and I'm like, all right, you just look like the creep. That's how you look. Which is very unfortunate for him.
Oh, that shot in that film where she's got all the lights off and she turns the light on, and you have no time to really react because his face is just there.
Yeah, and then it cuts to black immediately.
Yeah, you don't know what you're looking at, and then you're like, oh shit.
I know. Creepy film that was. Literally a creepy film that was. But he was good, and I hope to see more and stuff. And I hope to see more from Holness. We both love Garth Marenghi's Dark Place very much.
Bloody love it.
What?
Check that out, guys.
Garth Marenghi's Dark Place. Have you never seen that, Adam?
Garth Marenghi.
Oh, I have seen Creep before. I remember it now.
God, this cunt. Everything.
I knew there was a reason
he
why.
He goes, no, and there's like, your memory is awful.
He actually finishes his film in about February.
Oh no, I've seen the other Creep.
He doesn't actually know what films he's watched, even though he says watched.
No, I've seen another film called
Adam
Creep.
needs to do some crosswords, a few word searches, do one a day for like 15 minutes just to sharpen the brain up, just to improve the memory.
I'll do my Wordle still.
Yeah, it's not helping, mate. It's not helping.
There's too many fucking films going on, man. You two have got a very good memory of film.
I've not got a good memory.
Oh, you two can remember every fucking line and bullshit of a film.
That's Ben.
Should we give our final thoughts on this film?
Yeah, Adam wants to shut it down. So all I'll say is I look forward to Holness's next film if it ever comes. But in the meantime, he's releasing a book in November as Garth Marenghi, and he's written I think it's 3 horror stories in a book.
Going on with Prince Charles and stuff like that?
Yeah, well, it hasn't been confirmed at the Prince Charles. I really hope it happens, because that would be great if they play all of Garth Marenghi's episodes and then have him on stage for a Q&A and signing the book. I'm there, man.
That'd be wonderful.
Hopefully that happens. But yeah, either way, I look forward to your next work. I would love to have given this slightly higher, but unfortunately, even though it was really good, I really did rate it. It was just really suffered from a pacing issue and was so wretched and miserable that the pacing felt even worse because you're having to endure it. So for that reason, it is a very respectable 7 from me.
Yeah. I'm saying exactly the same thing. It's not bad enough to be a 6. It has too many good moments to put this down as a 6. But it's that 7, just a little bit. It's an unhappy 7 because you want it to be better. You were like, oh, it's a kid in school. You're like, you should have done better, but you spent too much time fucking around.
Just like you, then.
Probably. But I never had the brains in the first place. The street smarts.
And I am going to say that I thought 7 when I first finished the film. But I feel like the more I think about it, the more it stayed with me, and the more we've been like pulling it apart and trying to get to understand it. I think it is just creeped onto an 8.
Nostalgia is a wonderful drug, isn't it? Nostalgia. You've only watched it 3 days ago, and you're already nostalgic about it.
I wonder though, Paul, if you rewatch it and tell me if you do, if that holds up, because now that you know how it goes, the pacing, if it suffers more for it, because when you're thinking back to it, you're thinking, oh, this bit was good and that bit was good and that means that and that means that. But then when you have to sit through and you're like, well, actually 30 minutes of this movie,
it's true.
Not a lot of shit
it's
is
true.
Pushing things forward.
I'm
glad you give it the 8.
I'm going with how it makes me feel. Like just us talking about it, it makes me almost feel excited that we're unlocking the secrets of it.
Yes, I know, good. And I'm very glad that it was that ended up being that kind of film to have that
I feel
sort of
like
discussion.
Wildlife last week, really the conversation, because I enjoyed it anyway, and but I just feel like this is still let down a little bit by its subject. The fun has come from this podcast. This podcast has been more enjoyable than the film.
Oh, of course, because the film is not the film is a wretched experience.
I mean, that's what I mean. Not enjoyable then as such.
I know but I enjoyed the topic though. I liked it dealing with the subject of abuse in the way that it did. It was hard watch. It was a hard watch, and probably should come with some sort of trigger warning these days. I don't know. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have taken a time out. We've averaged our scores of 778. That gives us a score of 7.3, which means we have to place it with about 10 other films. So going from bottom to top, our lowest 7.3 is Avengers Endgame. And for me, this is better than that.
It can't go above Avengers Endgame for me.
Adam?
I hate to say this, but I think Avengers is better.
Well, I'm glad that you were honest and didn't try and spare my feelings.
He's honest. At least you're being honest, Adam.
There we go. Yeah.
I mean, it's a very different kind of film to feel. You get levity in that film.
100%. Fucking hell. Avengers Endgame, then Possum, and then below that is Limelight. Could you get 3 more different films?
I mean, Limelight's only there because of Julio didn't like it so much.
I know. Julio
it would have been above.
Down, man. Julio gave Limelight a 5. I forgot all about that.
Yeah.
And there we go. That's Possum. And
Possum.
I saw that nobody had a review for Possum to offer, obviously.
No one's seen it.
They're horrible people, these
There's
listeners.
quite a few people on my letterbox who watched this have seen it.
They have. They did not care to get involved in the discussion.
Well, I don't care to read their review out then. So I guess that means we close the book on Possum.
We close the book on Possum, another film from the 2018 catalogue.
Excellent.
Do you want to find out what our next film from 2018 we're doing is?
Yes.
Is that what we do now? And then we do the patrons.
Yes.
I keep forgetting.
Yes.
Okay. I can't wait. Long it out.
Okay, so you teased something last week. You said, hey, I know what you're going to pick. You're going to pick something from 2018, and wouldn't it be like that adverse to doing it, right? That's what you said?
That is what I said, yeah.
And I was like, I didn't even know what you're talking about. I haven't even looked at 2018 yet, right? So I was like, oh, okay, let me look through my films. Oh, that is what he picked. I'm not going to tell Adam what it is, but I'm not picking that film.
Okay, all right.
I feel like it would be too much of a loving from me, and that's not the best kind of discussion I like to do sometimes. I like to delve into something fresh and new that neither of us have seen.
Yes.
I'm speaking in Old English.
You are. You should be writing that poetry book that he was reading.
And I'm kind of wanting to make a theme here. I wonder if Adam can carry the theme on when he does his film. He probably won't. He's probably already done his pick.
I haven't.
But we started off doing a film from America.
Yes.
We then did a film today from Britannia.
Yes.
Next, we're doing a film from India.
We're doing
our
first
Bollywood film.
Holy shit, I don't think I've ever watched one in my life.
And it's on Netflix. So
wow.
it's easy for everyone to watch.
Okay.
And it's very highly rated, it looks. I just found it. I came out of the blue and it was on my watch list, strangely.
Was it 5 hours?
No, it's not. It's like just over 2 hours.
Okay.
This is Andadun. Right? And this is the little description. A series of mysterious events changes the life of a blind pianist who now must report a crime that was actually never witnessed by him.
Say that again?
A series of mysterious events changes the life of a blind pianist who now must report a crime that was actually never witnessed by him.
What's it called?
It's called Andadun. It's one word. So anyone who wants to look this film up, if you want to go on Letterboxd or just on anything, it is spelling Andhadhun.
Yeah, I got it.
Anderden.
Got people walking down the piano.
People
So
walking down the
basically,
piano.
And a
it's
pretty
spelled
cat.
like this: and had hun.
2 hours 20.
Paul neglected to mention that there is a cat on the movie poster. That's the most important bit of information,
look at that.
listeners.
If that
I
cat
hadn't really
dies,
inspected
we're
it.
in trouble.
He is playing
If that-
the piano.
If that cat dies, I'll never watch a Bollywood film again. I've
This
gone
is-
36 years without watching one, so
Oh.
it's not that hard.
And I like the idea of this genre. The genre is thriller, comedy, crime.
Mm.
Nice. I have no idea what to expect for this. But Jamie has something to watch this, so he wants to watch
Interesting.
it. And it's on Netflix, so everyone get involved. And let's have a nice Bollywood adventure.
Wow. So we are going to be covering that next Friday, is that right?
That is correct.
Wow, our first Bollywood. Okay, I'm game. Adam, you know what you need to do with the fourth pick then?
What,
I
another
totally forgot. I've already said already.
Yeah, he has.
another colonized country by the British?
Oh, shit. That is the theme. You better find us a colonised country.
We've got
Yeah,
Australia.
in honour of our dear Queen.
Celebrate our history.
Yeah.
Right, so that's very exciting. That's our next week's pick. Shall we move on to what our patrons have to say this week?
Yeah, let's hear what they got to say.
Okay, well, if anyone wants to know, we got a Patreon at www.patreon.com/filmbusters. We have exclusive episodes. All our listeners on there and our patrons, they get to choose films for us to do on the podcast. They get to even come on the podcast if they're lucky enough.
Wow.
Yes,
Who could ask for more?
I know. And if you would like to become a patron, you could become a patron just like the likes of Andy Bishop.
Yes, you can. We have Ben from Film Floggers.
We have Mark and Steve from Movie Drone.
We have Brent from Home Video Hustle.
We've got Luke Human.
Luke Human almost put you out of a job. Did you see on Twitter?
Yeah,
the,
he just stole my
summary of
review
our-
and reworded it.
Oh, he masterfully did it. We have the Joaquin Phoenix superfan Fiona Stewart.
We have the wonderful, wonderful Sean Panda Nicholson.
We also have Nerd Revert.
We have last week's wildlife wild guest Julio.
King of podcasting, apparently.
It's true.
And then we got Mr. Teach. It's Jamie Russell.
And then we have the people responsible for the last years around Katie and Oti.
They're all the patrons. They're all of them. All of them over there at once.
That's all of them. And now they get to tell us what they've been watching this week, the good and the bad. First of all, we got Sean Panda Nicholson, and he says, well, I don't know if this is breaking the rules or whatever, but the very best thing I watched, played, was Sam Barlow's amazing video game, Immortality. It is basically hours of sifting through videos of an unknown actress and trying to find the dark secrets within the clips. I'm hesitant to say any more in case you guys end up giving it a go. It's best to go in Baccarat blind, he said it. But just trust me, once you work out what's going on, it is a wild ride, and I've still not 100% found all the secrets within after about 5 hours. I hope I haven't broken any sacred Filmbusters commandments here, but by choosing what is technically a game, but seriously, it is on the borderline between game and film. Anyway, much love to you guys, and really can't wait to have you back in my ears. Podcasts like yours are very important to people like me and essential in keeping the wolf from the door. Stay amazing. We love you, Sean.
We love you, Sean.
I hope you're doing okay.
Hope you're doing very well, man, and very glad that we can continue to be a tonic.
Exactly. It's people like you that make this all worth it, our dear friend.
100%.
And
I'm
we
very
also love video
intrigued by
games
that.
that are basically films. They
Yeah.
are very good. I haven't played one in a very long time. I keep meaning to. I just never settle into games like that recently.
Those Bethesda games, the ones like Heavy Rain, is my absolute favourite. Love that.
But it's
and
also
Detroit Become Human
it's
was very
that
good.
balance though. It's that very. It depends what kind of. If it's very like realistic, and you have to read a lot, I don't mind that. But when it's
Yeah.
like quite, it's like that's pretty much what you do in the whole game. I don't know.
Yeah.
It
No,
feels-
I know. But, I don't know if you played Detroit Become Human.
I did not.
Now, that one was very good because you're playing 3 or 4 different characters, and literally the choices you're making, you can see in it an entire web of pathways that shut down every time you make a choice. So you can, you can be
I do like that.
you now can't do any of those things because you've chosen to do that, and it keeps spiraling. I think there was like 18 different endings you could get, but even with those different endings, there was other stuff that ended differently before that. It's very good. I like that sort of shit. Choose your own adventure shit.
Yeah, for sure. I love that.
That sounds good. It's like trying to find out why she. What did he say? It was about an actress trying to find the dark secrets within the clips. That would be good if it was very convincing footage and stuff. That would be cool.
Definitely.
Next up, we have Jamie Russell. He said, I would highly recommend the film Miracle Mile. I've been meaning to watch it for years and it didn't disappoint. It's a unique experience that needs to be consumed. Baccarat Blind. Again.
Wow.
Said it again.
Twice.
For maximum impact. I spotted a host of recognisable actors from the 80s classics such as Terminator, Robocop, Alien and Cobra. And that added an extra bit of pleasure for an 80s kid like me.
Miracle Mile. Well, we know nothing about it unless you know about it.
Fucking adding that to my watch list. Miracle Mile.
So it's an 80s film, presumably, then, if it has all these 80s characters, unless they've all come
88.
back. 88.
Oh, shit. Jamie's giving it a 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I can't even find it. I've just searched Miracle. Oh, yeah, I've just searched Miracle. That's why. Miracle Mile. 1988. It's got a flamboyant poster.
That's got a great tagline. There are 70 minutes to the end of the world. Where can you hide?
Very good. Oh, it's already on my watch list. You know what I did? I went through all the years on Letterboxd, going back like 70, 80 years, and all of the top 3 or the top 5 average highest rating films of that year that I hadn't seen. I just added them all to my watch list. Bang, 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 bang throughout all the years. That's why I've got shitloads of them that I don't even know why they're on there. It must be because of that. Very good, Jamie. Well, wicked. It's not streaming anywhere, so you'll have to reach into your pocket and purchase it, which I assume Jamie did.
He must have done.
And finally, we've got Luke Human, who says, nothing too terrible recently, so only a recommendation. 2021's Congolese movie Salum, an incredible opening, evokes the spirit of Beasts of No Nation or certain aspects of Lord of War. However, that's just for context. What plays out is a fascinating mystery thriller with some of the most enigmatic characters ever put on screen. It looks completely gorgeous. Herbulot and cinematographer Karandi give a western feel with great vistas, silhouette and moody close-ups. What transpires is a genre-defying tale of revenge with a swift pace and sure style that will make this a classic piece of African cinema, and a good proportion of its cast and crew stars. Very nicely worded as always. Very intriguing.
Lovely.
I have not seen enough African cinema.
No, I'm adding this as well. Luke's giving it a 9 out of 10.
You know,
the tagline to this one is Once Upon a Time in Africa.
Oh.
Oh, they love that, don't they? Once upon a time in somewhere.
I know. It was like, oh, I never thought that you could do that. I could go Once Upon a Time in South London and everybody going, oh, he's the great new voice of South London, this filmmaker. Incredible stuff he's doing.
Incredible.
Maybe you are.
Well, I'm interested.
I'm interested.
It's got a 3.5. That's a pretty, I'd say it's pretty above, a little bit above average.
I just think of that. What's that film called about Captain Alex?
Oh, yes.
What was that called?
Captain Alex.
Is that what it's called? Captain
Finding
Alex?
Captain Alex, wasn't it, or something?
Or Saving Captain Alex or something like that. It's where was that from? Like when I said I don't really watch African cinema, I haven't seen much. That's the main one that comes up into my mind.
It's Who Killed Captain Alex?
That's so much fun. A great film. What a great time to be had with that film, man.
Well, if we ever get to 2010, you know who you got to pick.
Oh, well.
Captain Alex.
Well, cheers, patrons. Thanks for that. And we look forward to bringing you more content as the years roll on. And we're going Bollywood Baby next year.
Bollywood Baby.
Deals Busters.